Hall, you've been in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for 15 months now. You're engaged in working on the legal regime there. What can you tell us?
Well, it's a fascinating place to work. As you say, I've been there for 15 months. My work is basically revolving around the regulatory regime there in terms of the real estate laws. It's a fascinating place to work. The laws are very, I suppose, measured and controlled over there. They're quite strict in terms of their implementation. It's quite interesting in what they've done. They've actually worked by way of committees rather than a central regulatory real estate body, which is such as the case here in Dubai. And that's created a real sort of focus in terms of real estate regulation. Examples might be the recent off-the-plan sales committee established. I think they saw what was happening in other GCC countries in terms of apartments and off-the-plan sales. And they decided, whilst it didn't have the same impact over there as it does here, perhaps given perhaps the preference, cultural preference of Saudis to live in villas rather than in apartments, and also the available land space. The fact was that they decided to move quickly to avoid speculative action and did it via the establishment of a committee. So it was a really focused way of doing things. The regime's an interesting one in the sense that the government is actually a reformist government in this area effectively. They've passed probably 140 laws in the last 5 or 6 years dealing with foreign investment and that sort of activity. The procurement laws are now very tight in terms of the World Trade Organisation accession. There's laws in relation to off-the-plan sales and other things such as the procurement laws in those other areas. So there's been quite a large amount of work done in the regulatory area. You combine that with the incentives that are available under the foreign investment laws there, and there's very good opportunities for investors into the Saudi market. And the real estate regulation has really aligned itself with that sort of exciting activity over there, to a point where recently, as you may have seen, the World Bank has nominated them, I think, as number 13 in terms of the best places to do business in the world. They're the top one in the Middle East. They're very proud of that achievement, I'm sure. But their overall objective through the Foreign Investment Authority there is to be in the top 10 in 2010. And there's every indication that they'll achieve that over the next 12 months.
Are these laws directed at large investors, at funds, at things like that? Do they also apply to individual foreign investors?
Oh no, they apply to all foreign investors across the board. There's foreign investment laws, more particularly there's real estate foreign investment laws. Clearly GCC nationals have a preferred position, as you'd expect, in terms of their investment into the Saudi market. But if you are a foreigner in that sense, as in non-Saudi, non-GCC, then the foreign investment laws will apply to you irrespective of your whether you're a company or an individual.
I mean, I know that there's a lot of investment from Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries into the UAE. Do you see much going the other way?
I see quite a lot. Perhaps not as much as a year or two ago. The events of the past years or two with the credit crisis have perhaps caused a bit of a rethink in terms of certainly foreign developers who are looking to move into the Saudi market. Foreign or private sector investment, if you like, has diminished in the Saudi market at the moment, but that's not to say it's stopped. It's just sort of reduced given the credit crisis, etc. But what's happened is, and it's happened with stimulus packages around the world, is that the government has stepped in. The infrastructure work has increased enormously. At the G20 summit the year before last, King Abdullah announced that the investment of, I think, $400 billion into infrastructure. So that's being poured into the market. So the public sector has really stepped up and stepped into the breach in terms of, the drop in private sector activity.
Would you say that you're bullish on Saudi Arabia?
Oh, I think so, yes. No, I think definitely what's happening there is very exciting. It's certainly in the public sector. I think the private sector is beginning to regenerate again, like in many other areas. But as I say, the public sector activity is enormous. They've announced new desalination plants, power stations. Obviously, the Land Bridge Rail project's a very significant one, $7 billion that the government's going to now fund. So they're very significant projects, and there's a lot of opportunities clearly for people in the real estate industry to certainly have a look there, if not set up a presence there.
For foreign investors not from the GCC, say, or even GCC, would you say that Riyadh or Jeddah, or perhaps some other places, are the most inviting, have the best opportunities?
In a sense, all three. In a sense, that's Riyadh, Jeddah and the Eastern Province, Dammam. They're all very active in their own particular areas, but I would say the Eastern Province has been particularly active in what's happening over there. And Jeddah, of course, will regenerate with the economic cities, particularly the King Abdullah Economic City, which is just near Jeddah. And also, of course, there's massive infrastructure investment going into the religious tourism associated with the holy cities near Jeddah. So there's certainly a lot of activity there, and a lot more residential activity, as some people, like the world over, I guess, crave living near water. And Riyadh's certainly not near water, but Jeddah's right on it. So they have the real benefits there of that lifestyle, if you like.
Coming back to the legal regime, what possibly reforms or laws have they not passed yet, which you would like to see?
Well, the biggest one would be the mortgage laws. The availability of finance is quite difficult for individuals there. It's very difficult to create mortgage security over land. This is partly due to the notary publics, who are all Sharia scholars, and they have a reluctance to register mortgages in favour of financiers for the fear of interest payments, which is a prohibited activity under Sharia law. As a result, there's perhaps a limited availability of finance. The flow-on or knock-on effect of that is that the Saudi home ownership is down in the 20-odd% mark, which is extremely low. And this in turn has caused perhaps demand to increase. More people are interested in buying houses, but with the unavailability of finance, there's an issue for them. From the financier developer side, well, if the developer sees that the prospective purchasers may not have finance in the pipeline, then they're a bit more reluctant perhaps to enter into development projects. They tend to have to hold their money back to fund the purchases rather than doing new developments. And perhaps most significantly, they're not becoming too creative and innovative in their projects. You tend to perhaps pull back and be a bit more conservative in that sort of environment. You combine all that with the fact that enforcement of securities is difficult. You know, eviction of someone from their home is a very difficult exercise, perhaps not only emotionally around the world, but legally in terms of the Sharia. So the mortgage laws are necessary. What they will do, and it's a package, is first of all allow registration of mortgages, but